Hi guys, it's me, I'm back. Have a little bit of a cold, but nothing serious. So we'll give this a try. Um, I'm back with another story about contact with the angels. This one is a very serious contact. It's one that your brains will probably tell you not to believe. It's one that my brain tried to tell me not to believe. Um, but now that I'm older and I have a better understanding of how things work in our world, I still don't like this, but I understand it now. Um, like I said before in other uh, videos that I've done, that we create and choose our lives before we come here. And we do this to meet certain criteria and learn lessons. Um, our souls want to expand and to experience. And in order to do that, we come here to live out these lives. It's almost like a play. Um, although because we our memories are wiped out, we don't remember that we were sent here to play out scenarios. Instead, we believe that we are these meat suits and we believe that these costumes are real. We believe that everything that happens to us is personal, um, and we don't realize that we have actually chosen these things, and that the people around us have just signed on to help us learn the lessons that we need to learn. So, um, I think I'll get right into this one. Um, like I said, my brain didn't want to believe this either, but it's true. Uh, it was in 1988, I believe, um, maybe 89 or somewhere in between. So it'll be 88. Um, I was having a really rough day. I had two small children. Well, um, my daughter would have been about 6 or 7, and my son would have been 20 months older, so about 8, 9. And um, as I have said before, my husband was an alcoholic and narcissist and not a nice man. I can't remember what the exact scenario or situation was, but I was very upset, um, very angry with the things that were going on in my life. So I gave myself a timeout and I went up to my bedroom and I was laying on my bed. And all of a sudden, I heard this booming voice from the corner of my bedroom. It was a big bedroom. And the voice was booming at me, and it said, "Candace, I'm here to give you a choice." And I said, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm an angel. I'm your angel." And I said, "Okay." he said, you have to choose. One of your children is going to die soon, and you have to choose which one of those children is going to die. Oh my God. What? How can you come here and tell me that one of my children is going to die and then add to it that me, I have to choose which one? I said, I can't. I'm not going to choose. I can't do that. He told me that if I didn't choose, both of my children would be taken from me at the same time. I knew I couldn't bear that. I there I it was bad enough that I would be losing one, but to lose two. And surprisingly, my ego stepped out of the way and my soul took over, and my soul seemed to be okay with this. Um, my soul said, okay, give me a couple minutes to think about this. And so I thought about it a little bit and I said, you know, my daughter is a really bad child. She has a lot of problems. And at the time I wasn't Christian, but I had just left those beliefs a few years earlier. So I still had the heaven and hell idea in my head. And I believed that my son, if he died, he would definitely go to heaven. He would be okay. My daughter, if she died, she wouldn't go to heaven. She was a bad seed. And it hurts me to the quick to be saying this, but this is the truth. Um, and she, like I said, was only maybe 6, 7 years old. Um, but she was a bad seed. Uh, so the angel said, do you have your decision? And I said, well, if I absolutely have to make a decision, this is my soul talking, it would have to be my son because I know that he would go to heaven. But, can't I just change this? Is there some way that you could take me instead? Some way you could take their father instead? Some way that it wouldn't have to be my son? And, sorry, get a little choked up here. Um, and the angel said, no, it would not be the same thing. It has to be one of your children. And so I said, okay, well, my son is the only one who I know would go to heaven. And I need more time to try to set my daughter right. So I guess it would have to be my son. And I said, um, if this is going to happen, can you give me an idea of when it's going to happen? And he said, of course I can't, because if you knew, you would try to stop it. He said, I can tell you that you have a little more than a year left with him, or around a year left with him, is what he said. And so I was in shock. I didn't know, you know, should I trust this? Should I believe this? How could they do this to me? Um, could this actually be true? And if it is true, oh my God, am I really going to be losing my son? Um, just a million things going through my head. And about a week later, I was standing in the kitchen and my son came and sat on the steps that go upstairs, which were in front of me, so I could see him well and he could see me well. And he said, "Mom, I know I'm going to die at a young age." I said, "How do you know that you're going to die at a young age?" And he said, "Because the angels told me that I have about a year left here with you guys and that I'm going to die when I'm young." And I said, "Well, it doesn't mean you have to die very, very soon." And he said, "Well, I don't think it's going to be very long." And I said, "How do you feel about that?" And he said, "Well, the angels told me that I'm just going to go back and be with God. I'm going to go back and be with Jesus and the angels, and I'm going to be okay, but I'm going to miss you guys." And so we hugged and kissed, and he didn't bring it up very often. We went on living our lives. And about 8 months later, um, we were swimming at a pond, um, or a lake, actually. I think it's a man-made lake, um, Lazy Acres. It's in York or Northfield, Wisconsin, or just outside of Northfield, Wisconsin. And I was out in the middle of the lake, which was pretty deep, and my children were playing on the edge of the lake. Their father was supposed to be watching them because he didn't want to swim. Of course, he was sleeping. He wasn't watching. And he was the one who wanted to go there. I think he just wanted to go and suntan because he thought it was beautiful. Anyway, I was out in the middle of the lake, um, treading water and talking to a friend. And all of a sudden, my son hollered at me, "Mom, Mom, look at me." And he was jumping and bobbing all over the edge. And I could see him going in deeper and deeper. And my stomach went up to my throat, and all of a sudden, he was gone. He was gone. He was gone. Um, I had to swim about 100 yards to get to him. I'm positive I never swam that fast in my whole life. And I swam to where he went down, and I dove down. And thank God it I was able to touch him, and I grabbed a hold of him and I pulled him up to me and swam with him up to the surface of the water. And I was able to swim until I could touch the bottom. And I then held him up over my head and started shaking him, um, to get any water out, or I don't know, it was my soul reacting. And so I was shaking him, and he started coughing and crying. Thank God. Um, I got him out of the water, and I sat with him for about 5 minutes, hugging and kissing, and grateful that I had been able to save him. Of course, foolish me, I was hoping that I had cheated death, and that my prayers that I prayed every day had been answered and my son would not be dying. Well, I was wrong. Um, it was about another 8 months that my son survived. And we made the best of those 8 months as we could. Um, the warning that he was going to be dying did, you know, stick in our heads. And um, I let him know every day just how much I loved him and how much he meant to me. Um, on the day that he died, my husband, ex-husband now, unbeknownst to me, um, threw a party for our daughter's birthday. I think it was her 9th birthday. And it was in April, the end of April. But instead of actually making it a child's birthday, he had all of his friends bring their guns over. When people started showing up and started pulling out the guns, I told my husband that I didn't approve of this, I didn't like this, and he said, well, they're here to have a party for our daughter. How dare you leave? And I was stupid enough to listen to him. But I spent most of my time inside the house. I didn't venture out more than once or twice. Then I was in my kitchen and I heard my daughter screaming at the top of her lungs, and I ran outside, and my son, who was laying in the middle of the yard, my daughter had gotten her hands on a gun, which I had told my husband, make sure that nobody lets the children get a hold of guns. But someone put a gun in my daughter's hands. Someone who did not have the authority or the right to do so, and told her that she could use their boyfriend's gun. So my daughter went over to her brother to ask him how to use the gun. And as she was asking him, it went off and it shot in through his left eye and ricocheted off his temple and went kitty corner through his brainstem. His body was young and strong, and he didn't die immediately. But by the time that we got him to the big hospital, um, they had him on life support, and they were saying that he was not going to survive. My son was gone, and I had chosen him to be the one. Oh, God. That was another horrible thing that I had to learn to forgive myself for that. Thank goodness my spirituality and my soul helped me to do that. Um, I never blamed my daughter. I didn't really even blame my husband or his friend. My soul knew that this was a scenario that had to be played out. Um, it was one that affected me for so many years. My husband and I were married 2 more years before we finally got a divorce, and I moved on, and he moved on. Um, and I tried to support my daughter and teach her and help her, but she just, she was so wild and so set in her ways. She was bipolar, she was narcissistic, she was mentally ill and developmentally disabled. She had a lot of problems. And no matter how hard I tried, I just felt that I could never really make an impact or the changes that she needed to make. Um, I kept trying and trying and trying, but it just never worked. Um, my son died in 1990. My daughter died in 2018. She had breast cancer, and she was angry with me, and it was like she used her breast cancer to hurt me. Um, and it was during her breast cancer experience, and when I threw her out of the house and told her she had to go elsewhere, that was when my karma broke. When I realized that I could not let people treat me the way that she had been treating me all these years, hateful and horrible and nasty. Enough was enough. This is my home. She was an adult and she had to stop. Either behave herself um or she had to just get out. And so I made her get out. Um and it was when I let her go in peace. I would not argue with her. I would not fight with her. I realized that she had her own path that she had to follow. Thank God again, I followed my soul. I listened to my soul. And I let her go. And that was when my karma broke. That was when I had the other experience where I went and spoke with God. Um, and that was a beautiful experience. But it happened when I realized that I had to take care of myself, and that's what I was here for. So, you know, this story is hard to believe, but it's 100% true. Um, Now, when the angel was there giving me my choice, um, after I chose, he told me that my son would be dying in about a year or so. Um, he told me that I would eventually have a bigger, better, much happier, more loving, kinder family, that I would have 6 boys. Imagine that. I always wanted a big family. Um, but that none of this would happen until all of my family had passed away. My whole family, meaning my daughter as well, um, would have to die before I would be given my family, my new family. Um, I'm 62 years old, sitting here telling you this old story, but I still have faith that one day I will have those 6 boys. One day I will have a big, happy family. Um, I don't know exactly when. I don't even know how. Like I said, I'm 62 years old. How is it going to happen? I have no idea. But I have faith in God, and I know that God made me a promise. God promised me my son was going to die. God promised me that my daughter was going to die. God promised me my whole family was going to die. And God promised me that I would have a new family. God and the angels have compared me to Job, that if I'm able to live out this life and see everything through, that I am a female Job. Um, I will have lost all of my family. I will have lived a very difficult and rough life, being raped a couple of times, being beaten a couple of times, somebody trying to kill me, uh, being raised by a narcissistic, um, bipolar mother, having to raise a narcissistic bipolar daughter, being married to a man that was a narcissist and a hateful alcoholic, um, being married again to a man who I put on a pedestal, and I loved him with all of my heart, and I bragged every day of how wonderful he was and how fantastic he was and what a wonderful husband he was. And I was bragging the day that my daughter came to me and told me that he was molesting her. I've had so many situations in my life that could break me, but I've never allowed that to happen. I've stuck with my faith, and I've listened to my soul, and I'm grateful that I have the angels, I have God, and I have Jesus, and I know that I have more to live for in my future. Blessings, love, and light to all of you. Thank you for listening to my story, and I'll see you later. If you like these stories, remember to like and subscribe. See you later. Bye, guys. Have a wonderful night.